Is there approval of the agenda? Mr. Copeland, is there a second? Second. By Mr. Bush, is there any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor?
My name's okay.
Sorry, I apologize. Ms. Anderson. Go ahead.
I would like to remove executive session and action out of executive session with the approval of letter of intent.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I second it.
By Mr. Hart, discussion.
Can I start?
Absolutely.
The reason for my motion to remove it is based on the information that we've received regarding the need for a referendum to sell the nursing home. I know that there was an opinion put out about this in 2019, but I think that more information has come forward that would be worthy of investigation before we move any further along with the potential sale of Stephenson Nursing Center.
Anyone else? Ms. Hayes.
In regards to that referendum, do we have any other information regarding that from our state's attorney?
I can't speak to this issue, and I certainly appreciate the folks who reached out to us in advance and provided us with the newspaper clippings that they provided us with. I don't know how conversant everyone is in this, so I will kind of start with a little bit of a summary, and I think I can kind of address this issue. So there's a statute, and that deals with the establishment and maintenance of a nursing home. That's the title of the statute. And in that statute, there's a paragraph about closing or leasing a nursing home. And that statute does say, as indicated by the opponents of the sale of Walnut Acres, that, let's see, if the home was erected after a referendum approved by the voters of the county, it shall not be sold or disposed of except after referendum approval thereof by a majority of the voters of the county therein. The Stephenson County nursing home has had a long history in Stephenson County. It began as a poor farm. And then in 1961, the county board approved the process of turning the county port farm into a state-licensed Benjamin Stephenson nursing home. Give or take 9 years later, with their license in peril, the board approved a referendum to issue bonds. The proceeds of those bonds would be used to build a new building to house the nursing home. The state extended the license, and to the best of my knowledge, from 1961 to now, there's been no significant lapse in the license. Some of the documentation around the building of the new building to house the nursing home referred to erecting a nursing home. So that's the same word that was used in the statute, and that's, I think, kind of the crux of our, the disagreement between the proponents and opponents here. From the use of that word, the opponents of the sale of the nursing home formed the belief that a referendum is necessary to sell the nursing home. Since I've received those emails, I fought through it and kind of prepared an opinion on that issue. In my opinion, the resolution of that issue requires the definition of two words. One, nursing home, and two, erect. In defining nursing home, we have to determine whether the nursing home is the building where the majority of the activities take place, or whether it's the combination of legal entitlements and people that allow the work to lawfully occur. In other words, is the nursing home the building, or is the nursing home the legal organization or legal entity? This is the easier of the two definitions, I think, for us to work through. I believe both the proponents and opponents of the sale of the nursing home would have to agree that the nursing home is the legal entity, not the building. Let me give you two examples which I think show why that is the better definition. First, imagine Warren Buffett left his estate to Stephenson County, and the county board wanted to buy FHN as the new home of Walnut Acres. Would anyone argue that by expanding and improving the facilities that Walnut Acres was being closed, I don't think that they would. They would say, well, Walnut Acres is Walnut Acres, it's just changed addresses. Conversely, if the county fired all of the staff at the nursing home, relocated all of the patients, but left the building open, would anyone say that the nursing home remained open? I don't think that they would, even if the building was open. So I think that both the proponents and opponents can agree that the nursing home is the legal entity and not the building. With that definition in mind, we can look at the second definition that's important, and that is erect, which is used in the statute. It was also used, I believe, in the referendum to take on debt to build a new building in which to house the nursing home. I looked for Illinois sources of law defining this term in this context. I was unable to locate any, and I don't think there is any. It wasn't a short search. I don't think it's a esoteric enough issue that there just isn't any answer on it. So I did the next best thing. I went to Black's Law Dictionary and looked up erect. Black's Law Dictionary has two definitions of the meaning of the word erect. The first definition is to construct. The second definition is to establish. So now we have to figure out, when in that statute they said to erect a nursing home, did they mean to construct, which certainly could be fairly interpreted as to build, or did they mean to establish, meaning beginning the nursing home, which I think the evidence is took place in 1961. So let's figure it out. If we agree that a nursing home is a legal entity rather than the building that houses that legal entity, then a legal entity is established, not constructed. Since the statute relates to the legal entity, it would be reasonable to interpret erected to mean established, which again took place in 1961, not in 1970 or 71. Second, the statute at issue discusses the opening of a nursing home, the closing of a nursing home, and it discusses funding a nursing home through the passage of referendums. It does not discuss issuing bonds to raise money to build the necessary buildings. It's consistent with the remaining language of the statute to interpret erect as meaning established, because that's what the rest of the statute relates to. And there is a degree of rational symmetry to the idea that the nursing home can only be closed by the entity who opened it, whether that be the voters or their representatives. Finally, the benefit of interpreting erect to mean establish rather than construct is that an organization can only really be established once. But if by construction you mean actual physical construction like building, it can be constructed, destructed, remodeled, and moved as many times as the people running it have the resources and will to do. Well, why is that problematic? Because if you're interpreting erect to construct, then you have to pick which construction would count. Is it the 1971 referendum or any of the subsequent county board approved construction since? It could be either, or both, or neither. If you interpret it that way, the statute doesn't answer the question that it exists to answer, which is, what is the process that could be used to close or sell the nursing home? Which I think is fairly interpreted to be a legal entity. So for that reason, I think erect, even though it was used in the language of the referendum, in this case, in this statute, means to establish, which took place in 1961, not when buildings were built in the early 1970s. So that's my thought on the issue.
Thank you. Mr. Newton.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman, for counselor. I don't think it takes a PhD to realize that back in the year that they established it, they were talking about the building that's out there currently. And so if this was a debate class or a high-powered court case, Bravo, but the courthouse is, the nursing home is the nursing home, and so, we've talked about it many times about putting it on the ballot. The only thing that came up was whether it was binding or non-binding, and so if that's the question, then we should determine if it's binding or non-binding, as has been stated by a number of board members and before, and that's where we should go. I don't think making it complicated and going way over by the head is necessary, so thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hazard.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Just the button in the middle. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Our legal counsel. So my question, a couple questions is that if this went to, well, number one, if this went to court, would you be handling this, this case yourself?
I serve at the pleasure of the county and would certainly work with the county leadership to ensure the best possible legal representation. Frankly, given my staffing levels and other considerations, I doubt that would be me. But if that's what I was called upon to do, I would do it.
And if this is in court, you see this, under your opinion, you say we can move forward on the sale of the nursing home or not move forward on the sale of the nursing home?
Well, I'm going to interpret your question to mean, do I think that we would win a lawsuit? Is that kind of what you're asking? Okay.
Yes.
I mean, it's a complicated issue. I believe that the strongest side of the argument is as I've set forth here today. No one can, with 100% certainty, predict the outcome of any lawsuit.
So saying that, I think that we should put things on hold till we really look into this, and maybe you can even get a UCCI opinion also. They have been very good down in Springfield, giving us opinions. So, and it's free to the county. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you take roll on the vote? Need to push your button, Mr. Clerk, if you wish to be recognized. You're on.
He's in a different spot.
Yep, you're right. My apologies. Go ahead and try now.
Okay, there I am, I think. Mr. Larson, was there ever a period between the initial nursing home being occupied and between the second structure being erected?
The county board approved the licensing procedure, or in 1961. The other structure was built in the early 70s. So presumably, the entire period between 1961 and when that new building was built was a period between when, and then that's assuming that you are starting the nursing home at 1961 when it became state licensed, and before that when it had kind of other functions. I mean, that period of time would be a period of time between when it was established and when the new building was built.
So the first year that we had a license for a nursing home was 1961?
Yes.
And we constructed this current building in 1970?
Well, the referendum was in 1970. I'm sure it took some period of time, probably 1971, before that building was open.
And we don't know if there was ever a lapse in between the two buildings where we weren't operational.
Well, I don't know what you mean by lapse, but there is a news article that indicates that it was licensed during that entire time.
So the original license we had remained throughout that period, the same license that's been renewed subsequently?
Well, the news article I read indicated that, well, there were a number of news articles relating to it, which I think everyone's been sent. Well, actually, I've probably got it here. I can read you what it says, and you'll know what I know. All right, it says, this is from a news article, March 18th, 1970. It says, "Boy, are we tickled," he said, letting the contract satisfied the state's requirement for extending the present license until the new home is opened. Obviously, that's in the context of a greater argument talking about or a greater article talking about the referendum for the bonds to construct the 96-bed county nursing home.
What was the first building? Does anybody know how that came to be?
I'm sorry, what?
Could you speak up, Mr.
What was the first building? Was it something that had been constructed specifically for that purpose, or?
Well, there were a number of buildings over the years, particularly when it was like a poor farm, which also was kind of like a mental health place for a period of time. I think that burned down and they moved that, and so I don't know.
I'm just trying to get a handle on it. You know, I'm a little bit leery of using articles in the local paper as opposed to what our archives and records are here in the county. It sounds like we're pinning a lot of this on some local papers that are written, not to disparage the local. You want to give that to her? Yeah. But you want to know it. I would be more comfortable if I knew what our records were, what minutes were, something more than the local newspapers.
Anything else, Mr. Hart?
Not at this time, no.
Any other discussion on the amendment to remove the executive session and the action out of executive session? Okay, seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please take roll?
Casey Anthony.
Hi.
William Hadley.
Yes.
Jim Hart.
Yes.
Kurt Copeland.
No.
Adam Modero.
Yes.
Larry Jobers.
No.
Scott Helms.
No.
Jackie DeMeester.
No.
Nicole Baker.
No.
Steve Frick.
No.
Tim Whalen.
No.
Ronnie Bush.
Aye.
Samuel Newton.
Aye.
Luann Hayes.
No.
Six, A, 8 nay. Motion carries.
Yes, we're back to the original motion, second.
I have an amendment, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to move executive session and action out of executive session under the Helios update.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
And Mr. Hart, is there any discussion on that motion?
Yes, the reason is that it makes sense that, once we get their update, that we go into executive session and everything's fresh to us at that time. Plus, it gives a chance at the end of the meeting for people to make public comment, because executive session was after public comment. That's all I have.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please take roll on the amendment to move executive session and action out of executive session after the Helios updates and before action items and information from standing committees.
William Hadley.
Yes.
Jim Hart.
Yes.
Kurt Copeland.
Yes.
Adam Modero.
Aye.
Larry Jobers.
No.
Scott Helms.
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester.
No.
Nicole Baker.
Hi.
Steve Frick.
Yes.
Tim Whalen.
Yes.
Ronnie Bush.
Aye.
Samuel Newton.
Aye.
Luann Hayes. Casey Anthony.
Aye.
Twelve A, 2 nay, motion carries.
And again, we are back to the original motion to approve the agenda as amended. Any other discussion on the agenda? Mr. Jokers?
No, we gotta vote on it.
We have to get to that first, so. Unless, okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the agenda as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Now we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there any items that any board member would like to remove?
Yes.
Mr. Jokers?
I would like to move the nursing claims in the amount of $219,719.09.
You're asking to remove that?
Yeah, from the consent agenda, and
Okay.
add that they would be paid pending funding availability and after review by the finance committee.
Okay, so first we're just going to remove it, then we'll come back and we'll discuss the items. Anyone else have anything else they want to remove? Okay, Madam Clerk, would you please read the consent agenda?
Approval of March 16, 2023 minutes. Approval of April 17, 2023 minutes. All claims on the clerk's desk to the proper committees without reading.
Okay. All those in favor of the consent agenda, I'm sorry, is there a motion?
We didn't have a second.
I'm sorry.
I was second.
Thank you. My apologies. Any discussion on the consent agenda, other than the claims?
Does that include the minutes from our special meeting?
They are included in the consent agenda, yes.
I'd like to make a motion to amend those to reflect my votes from that special meeting.
Okay, is there a second to Mr. Hart's amendment to the minutes for the special meeting? I'm sorry, who seconded?
Aye.
Mr. Whalen, any discussion on that? Mr. Hart, to repeat what your amendment to the minutes, what you'd like it to reflect, please?
I'd like the minutes to reflect my votes, which were yes on all items in the special meeting. Apparently, there was some feedback from the computer.
Okay, very good. All those in favor of Mr. Hart's amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the consent agenda, except for removing nursing claims. Any other discussion on that? All those in favor of the consent, I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, could you take roll on the consent agenda? I apologize.
Larry Jokers.
Yeah.
Scott Helms.
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester. Nicole Baker. Steve Frick.
Yes.
Tim Whalen.
Yes.
Ronnie Bush.
Yes.
Samuel Newton.
Aye.
Luann Hayes.
Aye.
Casey Anthony.
Aye.
William Hadley.
Yes.
Jim Hart.
Yes.
Kurt Copeland.
Yes.
Adam Otero.
Aye.
No nay, motion carries.
Okay, so there's one item removed. Is there any discussion on the item that was removed by Mr. Jokers? Mr. Jokers, go ahead.
I would like to add to that, that we would, review those, nursing home claims, by the finance committee, and that they would be paid pending funds availability.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Is there a second to the motion? Mr. Copeland, could you repeat the motion just for clarification, please?
Sure. I got it written down. I'd like to separate the nursing home claims in the amount of $219,719.09, and add that they would be paid pending funding availability and after review by the finance committee.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Anthony?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Jokers, are you suggesting that the claims never go in front of the nursing home committee for which they pertain to?
You're on.
No, okay.
No, I'm suggesting that, currently the process is TCM, kind of reviews the bills, and then they submit, to the treasurer and the finance committee for what they think needs to be paid, and I think there needs to be some more eyes on this, because there's a lot of bills out there from last year, that are getting pushed to the back, and they continue to pile up, but I just wanna make sure that they're getting paid, in the right manner. That's why I'm asking for this.
May I continue?
Go ahead.
I guess my concern or confusion, I'm not quite sure which I want to use at this point, is that there appears to be perhaps a lack of trust with the nursing home committee.
Didn't say that, no. I just think that, I read a thing today that there is $997,000 in past due bills. That was dated today on that report, 34 pages of bills, and $500,000 is owed to the county for IMRF, Social Security liability. So I think there needs to be some more eyes on what's going on, that's all.
Ms. Anthony, before you continue, you have asked twice. Before I come back to you, I'm gonna move on, but I will come back, I promise. Mr. Whalen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm actually getting concerned that we're gonna end up getting sued by some of these people that are out there waiting for money. I mean, there's bills that are due still from 2021, and I'm more concerned about lawsuits coming from that direction than I am about the other direction if we actually move forward with the sale. So I would amend that motion to specify that the finance committee be responsible for the prioritization of those bills as well.
Okay, so you're making a motion.
I am. Yes, sir.
Is there a second to Mr. Whalen's motion by Mr. Jokers? All right, so now we have a motion and a second. Ms. Anthony, did you have anything you wanted to speak to the amendment?
Can you, Mr. Whalen's amendment?
Yes.
Can that be repeated, please?
Mr. Whalen?
My amendment is that the finance committee be responsible going forward for the prioritization of the payments made by the Stephenson County Nursing Center through the treasurer's office, to be specific.
Ms. Anthony?
I would like to make a comment on that because it's, again, a very dialectical conversation we continue to have with us at one hand saying that we are not capable of running a nursing home, but then we hire a management company who is the expert and has the expertise to run a nursing home. And they're giving us the direction. They're the ones talking to these companies. They're the ones coming to these agreements to make sure that everyone is in the understanding of, keeping services going. But yet now we're saying let's not listen to the professionals in the management company because for some reason now the county board is capable of doing it, even though we've said for ever since I joined the board that the county board is not capable of doing that. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Jokers, I'm not sure if you meant to have your light on, but if it's on. Did you want to speak or no? Okay, Mr. Whalen?
Yeah, I will just make a comment on that. They are more than welcome to be at that meeting and give direction and input.
Any other discussion on the amendment? Mr. Hart, did you?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Would that sounds like it would be completely different than we handle any other committee or any other invoices. Is that correct?
Mr. Whalen?
I believe so, Mr. Hart, but I think at this time, with the issues that we've had, paying vendors with nursing home funds, I think it's necessary. I think the finance committee is the right place for that because you have all the committee chairmen at the table at the same time. So we can kind of have a look at how that affects everything, within the business of the county at the same time. So it's a broader scope look than what we're going to get at the nursing center committee meeting typically. So.
And
Go ahead.
ask ask another question, and that would be, I thought that we had had a UCCI ruling recently that indicated that we have to pay all of our bills, regardless of which pot that they're in, that it's an enterprise-wide scenario, which would be the case for any legal entity that I'm aware of, or any business I've ever been affiliated with. So I don't know why we would carve out this portion of those bills and treat them separately. I would wonder why we just don't do an aging of all of our invoices as a county and pay them accordingly. That's what you would do I assume that's how you would run your business. You would have an agent for all of the invoices for your business, and you would pay them in that accordance. So I agree with, if we've got these old invoices, I think they need to be cleaned up, absolutely. But I'm just wondering if there might be a better methodology to do this, that's more in line with what best practices would be and what our standard protocols are.
Okay. Mr. Hadley.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question. So this would take the claims out of the hands of the nursing home then, or we will not be getting to see the claims or anything?
Mr. Grant, go ahead.
No, I don't think so, Mr. Hadley. Basically, we've had a management company involved with this for a year, and there's still a lot of stuff that's hanging out there that continues to become older because we can't seem to get caught up. So we keep paying things that are coming in. And again, this may be a one-time thing, it may be an ongoing thing. But what I believe is a best practice, as Mr. Hart mentioned, is to take a broader look at these things. It's not that they're not going to go to the nursing committee. In this case, we've got this, right? And so far, we've sat back and allowed TCM to prioritize all these things as our management company. Not saying they're doing a bad job, they're working with what they've got to work with. What I am saying though is I am genuinely concerned when I see something on this list that says so-and-so October 2021. If I'm that business, I'm gonna be suing this county at some point, saying you owe me money. It's $36,618.14. So that's my genuine concern, is the taxpayers of this county being represented well, and that committee is the finance committee that makes a lot of decisions around how we spend money in this county, right? How we budget, how we do things in a larger sense. And I think it makes sense at this point, because this has been a year, we've had this management company involved, and it's still not gotten any better. So I'm saying, let's take a fresh approach to this. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't work as well, I don't know. But at this point, I think it makes sense to do something different than what we've been doing.
Mr. Hadley, before you follow up, can I ask for clarification? Do you mind if I do that?
Yes, go ahead.
So and this is off of Mr. Hadley's question,
Mhm.
is your motion to then have the claims presented to nursing and approved, but its prioritization being changed from TCM to finance?
Correct.
Whatever
That would be the main gist of it, yes.
So whatever claims are approved out of nursing would then go to finance for prioritization?
That they're approved, as Mr. Jovers indicated, as funds become available, but that the finance committee actually sets the priorities and who gets paid. With TCM's input.
Okay. Mr. Hadley?
Yeah, I don't have any issue with that. As long as the claims are coming to the nursing home, we're reviewing them and passing them on to another committee. And later on, we're gonna be addressing interloan funds, and maybe we can solve this whole problem with interloan funds and pay all the bills that are due and be done with it like we did back in 2005, 2006, So, okay, thank you.
Mr. Jokers.
Thank you, Chairman. I guess my intent was to have the Finance Committee review all the bills and then prioritize those, not just the ones that came through that month. However, the monthly bills would go through the Nursing Committee. And I do agree with Mr. Hart
kind of need to do some prioritization before we do have the bill collectors knocking at the door. So that was my intent. The other concern, or looking ahead, if this continues to pile up, because the management company mentioned, I believe, Thursday night at the nursing committee that we would not be in the black all year long, so we're not going to get out of this hole this year. So maybe at some point we're going to have to decide, if we have to make cuts somewhere, and those are going to affect every department in here, or whatever we're going to do. We're going to have to figure out how to pay these bills, because if we don't, we're going to end up getting closed. So that's my concern.
Thank you. Mr. Newton.
You can forego it. Thank you.
And Ms. Anthony?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have concern with, I hear you saying that TCM can certainly participate in the conversation and make recommendations, but we've proven that we don't take their recommendations. They've given us all kinds of recommendations to try to show us how the nursing home could be more successful, and we have voted it down. So I really don't feel comfortable with that statement that will actually take their recommendations into account. We're looking at, I want to disagree, Mr. Whalen, with what you said, with nothing has gotten better, and I really hope that that's not what you meant, because if you actually look at the nursing home on a month-to-month basis, it is in the black. We are still making up from before, and it is taking longer and longer and longer to pay those past bills, because we haven't been able to maintain the census because of decisions the board is making, because we aren't cooperating and listening to the management company. And so here we are, where now we want to even take more away from them. We have a cooperation clause with them. It's in the contract. There's I could say a lot more, but I really have a hard time believing that we're actually going to listen to the management company, because we haven't, as the majority, we haven't proven that we're capable of doing so, and then we wonder why the management company isn't as successful as they presented when they first walked through the doors. Thank you.
Mr. Frick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. One more time?
Let's try it again.
One, there we go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Councilor as well. I don't know whether to rise to a point of order at this point, because we are looking at motions that change administrative policy, and all we're here to do is adjust the consent agenda. I'm concerned whether these are even items that we should be addressing in this scenario.
I think that you're probably right. The removal from the consent agenda would take place without a vote, without a second, I think. And then it would, have we approved the consent agenda yet?
The consent agenda has been approved without the nursing claims.
Okay, so we're outside of the consent agenda, and now we're taking this issue up. So I guess it makes sense here, doesn't it, to you?
I believe so.
Well, I was asking Mr.
Sorry.
Frick.
No, I'm just asking. It just seems out of place.
Yeah, if this was prior to the approval of the consent agenda, I would absolutely agree with you. And it's gone on so long, I forgot where we were. But being outside, I guess now would be as good a time as any.
The reality is it's outside the consent agenda. If nothing gets done with these claims, they don't get approved.
Can't hear you.
What I had stated was the nursing claims are outside of the consent agenda, meaning that if nothing is done with them tonight, they do not get approved. So, unless you're telling me otherwise, there is a motion to amend Mr. Joger's original motion to send them to finance, and there was a second. I think for clarification, Madam Clerk, would you mind reading Mr. Whalen's amendment to the original motion?
Mr. Whalen's amendment is as the claims are approved as the nursing committee, they will go to finance, and the finance committee will be responsible for prioritization of the claims.
Okay.
All claims, not just for the month.
Is that your motion, Mr. Whalen?
I believe that is correct, as long as it includes the outstanding claims as a whole.
Okay. Mr. Frick, are you done?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Ms. Anthony?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Frick brings up a good point. If you're looking at Stephenson County Code, the function of the nursing center, the committee of the Stephenson County Nursing Center shall audit the accounts and receipts of the nursing center. So it would change the function of the nursing center and place it elsewhere. So is that something that we're able to do outside of county code?
I don't think, and this is just based on what I've heard from Mr. Jogers, I don't think he's intending to remove these claims from the nursing home. The nursing home would still review and audit them. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay, so I don't think that even nominally it would be in violation of that code, but even if it were, the county board, as I've said on numerous occasions, retains any power that it delegates. But in this case, it's not an issue.
Ms. Anthony, anything else?
Thank you.
Mr. Newton?
Mr. Chairman, is it our intent to default on the bills for this month, and then, or is this the intent to start to pay them starting next month? I'm kind of, so not paying these tonight means we're not going to do this for a whole nother month before these bills become before committees. All right, is that what I'm understanding?
Mr. Whalen?
Thank you, Mr. Newton. No, my intent would be to call a special meeting probably by Monday of next week to review these and take action on those. Of the Finance Committee.
Anything else, Mr. Newton?
No, sir.
Thank you. Is there anything else on the amendment? And is everyone clear on the amendment? Okay, Madam Clerk, Mr. Hart, go ahead.
Mr. Whalen, would it be possible, and I don't know if this is procedurally possible, to alter your amendment a little bit to do this for a period of time, or maybe have some input from the treasurer and make sure, maybe we could put together a little group of yourself as the chairman of finance, the treasurer, Ms. Baker, and TCM to take a look at these invoices that we have a concern with, the old invoices, or maybe do this for 9. I'm not sure from a procedural standpoint, but that's what I would ask for, something a little less permanent than making this change right now.
If I could, just once claims are approved out of nursing, they automatically go on to next month's consent agenda.
Right.
So any action could be taken as it appears it may tonight.
I was just concerned with the portion about going beyond what's submitted from the nursing committee. The way we would do it now is whatever comes in from the nursing committee, whatever is approved, would go to finance. That's what you want to prioritize?
Well, that and the fact that we have so many outstanding bills that it's time to take a look at them. And I'm very concerned that, again, about a potential lawsuit coming at us from one of these vendors, Mr. Hart. I really am. And again, I think that what you just asked for is what I'm saying. You have the finance committee. All the chairmen of these various committees are going to be there, along with, I will invite TCM. They can come physically or obviously by like a Teams meeting or something, or Zoom, if they want to do that, if they don't want to drive out.
Okay.
To review these things and make the best decisions we can about trying to dig out of this hole. I think, to be honest with you, from my standpoint, I understand what Ms. Anthony's saying about hiring the management company. Again, I wasn't here when all that happened, right? And I didn't have any input into that. But we're a year removed from that, and we're still in pretty rough shape financially. So maybe we need to get a little bit more skin in the game and try and help push this or figure it out. And maybe Mr. Hadley's got an idea. We got to borrow some money from somewhere to pay some stuff. I don't know, but I think that's the right group to talk about that and to discuss it, is at the Finance Committee. So thank you.
Good, well, thank you. Anyone else before we take a roll call vote on the amendment? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take roll on the amendment only.
Tim Whalen.
Aye.
Ronnie Bush.
No.
Samuel Newton.
Not necessary, no.
Luann Hayes.
Yes.
Casey Anthony.
No.
William Hadley.
Yes.
Jim Hart.
Yes.
Kurt Copeland.
Yes.
Adam Modero.
No.
Larry Jogers.
Yes.
Scott Helms.
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester.
Aye.
Nicole Baker.
Aye.
Steve Perick.
No.
Nine A, 5 nay. Motion carries.
Okay, we are back to the original motion. Is everyone clear on what the original motion was, or does anyone want it repeated? Madam Clerk, would you please repeat it? This was Mr. Joger's original motion. Mr. Jogers, would you repeat it, please? Yes.
There we go. The original motion was to separate the nursing home claims in the amount of $219,719.09 and add these two, and add that they be paid pending funding availability and after review by the Finance Committee.
Okay. Mr. Newton.
Yeah, I was only gonna say, Mr. Chairman, that naturally the bills can go from the nursing home committee to the finance committee, because it's the last committee of the week anyway, without having a special meeting. I only asked about the meeting tonight because the bills are gonna be defaulted tonight, just to have a special meeting to pass them, when every month thereafter you'd be paying them anyway, and you could automatically stop the bills in the finance committee to look at them as a part of your finance committee's duties. That's all, thanks.
Anyone else? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take roll.
Larry Jogers.
Aye.
Scott Helms.
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester. Nicole Baker.
Aye.
Steve Perick.
No.
Tim Whalen.
Aye.
Ronnie Bush.
No.
Samuel Newton.
No.
Luann Hayes.
Aye.
Casey Anthony.
No.
William Hadley.
Aye.
Jim Hart.
Aye.
Kurt Copeland.
Aye.
Adam Modero.
No.
Nine A, 5 nay. Motion carries.
All right, thank you. We are going to move on to public comment. If you would like to speak, please come to the podium, announce your name. I believe the podium is working tonight, Mr. Moderos. Thank you. Please announce your name. You will be given 3 minutes.
Hello? Okay. I hate coming out here, so I'm here only to do some fact checking, and there's gonna be a long line behind me, I have a feeling, so, I would like to remind everyone.
Mr. Filippo, please say your name and I'll start the clock.
Hi, I'm Mike Filippo, transitional care manager. Thank you. I do want to remind everyone that there is a number being thrown out tonight for accounts payable of $997,000. I believe that's what you said, Mr. Whalen. $379,000 of that is a liability payment that is due on July 1st. And in my opinion, it shouldn't even be in this batch. It should be addressed as it comes due or closer to July 1st than tonight. So that puts the accounts payable a little over $600,000 right now, if you back that out, which I believe is a couple $100,000 better than last month. So I do want to make that statement. Number two, honestly, I could care less how the bills get handled. But I don't think you know how the bills are being handled now. I'd like to give the treasurer a compliment. The way that the bills are being handled now, the treasurer is your filter. And she's done a wonderful job. Sometimes it aggravates us, but she's done a wonderful job protecting the county. So if something needs to be paid to the county, she puts the stopper in and says, hey, look, I know that you want this bill paid, but I gotta pay this to the county first, or we gotta save a little bit more for payroll. So I think you've gone way out of the specter that you had to do. You really had a good filter in place that was protecting the county. Let's see, what other Pinocchios were out there? I think that's enough. I just want to clarify that, you know, the building is in the black on an accrual basis, even today with the lower census. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hi, my name is Gail Sanders. I'm a Stephenson County resident. I'm going to read something that Christine Eady wrote first, and I agree with it, so that's part of why I want to read it. It's well written. I was able to look over the state statute that was recently found to say that if a nursing home was approved by a referendum, its sale must be approved by a referendum. Obviously, this should have been known before by the county board or its council long before now. All the anxiety and upheaval experienced by residents, staff, families, and community members could have been avoided. As advocates for our nursing home, I urge you to work to ensure that the sale of Walnut Acres goes to referendum and is only sold if that is the will of the community. Our nursing home is vital to our most vulnerable elderly and disabled citizens. Its employees are respected and valued members of our community. I am confident that the majority of our county citizens agree with me. Please help to put an end to the disruptions and obstacles that some of the past and present county board members have put towards having a functional, well-run facility where our loved ones can be compassionately and competently cared for. Thank you for your work for our county. Feel free to share this letter with your fellow county board members. Blessings, Christine Eady, Ward 1. Again, I said my name is Gail Sanders, and I have some thoughts too. The Stephenson County Nursing Home was originally founded in the 1800s, I don't have the exact date, to care for the people of Stephenson County. It wasn't about cost, it wasn't about profit. It was formed to care for the people of Stephenson County, no matter the cost. It was erected in the 1800s or 1961, or was it the 70s? Is it erected because it's a building, or is it an entity? Either way, they voted to establish it. So what are we actually selling? Are we selling a building, the land? We're selling the idea of a nursing home. The idea that Stephenson County at one time chose to take care of the people in Stephenson County is important. Are we selling that idea? What is the process to close, sell, eliminate the nursing home or our nursing home? I've heard the words tonight multiple times of lawsuit and court. Good grief, we're rushing to do this with the risk of that, which will cost us money, one way or another, raise insurance rates or whatever it is. All for the perceived urgency to eliminate the erected entity, no matter what the term refers to. Avoid a lawsuit. The process is a referendum. It's simple, it's honest, it's above board. It gives the people of this county a chance to choose. What's the objection to a referendum that could have decided this fairly a long time ago? I've been coming here for years now, listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gerald Petraza, currently in Galena, Illinois, for 40 years, Apple River, Illinois, out in a rural community. I want to call your attention to an event that occurred in Galena last November that is ongoing in the court system. A gentleman from Platteville, a 22-year-old, came into Illinois, ended up in Galena. He had 2 dead deer in the back of his truck. He was speeding through town because he was having an argument with his girlfriend who was in the truck with him. So the neighbors in the community called the police. This is good community policing. The officers were able to identify the vehicle that was parked in town. Now this occurred during a major event in Galena, the annual tree trimming, Christmas tree trimming. So what eventually occurred was the individual who is now the defendant came up to his truck. The Galena police interviewed this individual. They found a loaded pistol visible on his front seat of his truck. Then they continued to interview him, and they searched the vehicle, and they found 3 loaded weapons in the vehicle. One was an AK-47, one an AR-15, and one a semi-automatic military-style revolver. Now, I'm going to connect this very quickly with many of the things that Gail was addressing, and it goes to the comments that the district attorney was pointing out. What is the essence of an AR-15? We have a big debate about this. The Air Force in 1955 contracted a company to design a military weapon for the Air Force, the AR-15. Now what they're saying in Joe Davies County is that this is a hunting weapon. The essence of an AR-15 is it's a military weapon. In 1948, a gentleman called Kalashnikov, a Russian, designed a weapon that has been used since 1948. The essence of that weapon is it's a military-style weapon. So the point is, the issues that Gail brought up is, what are you guys talking about this nursing home? What is the essence of this issue? So let me continue very quickly. So this gentleman was arrested, and the defendant is in the legal system right now. And there's 2 charges against this individual, 2 stage 4 felonies, both of which, if you do the research online, in the state of Illinois, 95% of the people get probation. I'll be around later.
Next, please. Okay. Seeing no other.
There's. Whoa.
Good evening, I'm Dr. Steve Castle. Thank you, board, for serving, and thank you, Mr. President. So I had originally intended to write up a very eloquent and stat-laden speech to come in here to try to present some kind of logical or rational opinion as to why I do not believe that our board should be in control of the health care of our elderly. But Jesus said that you should agree quickly with your enemy while you're in the way. And after experiencing last month's meeting, I realized that the opponents of my viewpoint actually all had a very similar position that I agree with. And so I want to go from the place that I agree. Even though I disagree with the vileness of the way that they did it and the vulgarity of the way that they did it, there was this very passionate, emotional plea to have the board deal with and address these major problems that exist in the nursing home. And so what my agreement is that I really don't think that any board member specifically is individually qualified to run a nursing home, which then also means as a whole that any individual is specifically capable of running a nursing home. I even agree with Ms. Anthony, who said that you guys are failing at accomplishing these goals. And so I don't know why there continues to be a conversation as to whether you or someone who's actually a professional who knows exactly what they're doing, that's been trained, that understands what to do, which would be the private sector,
should be actually in charge of the future, the life, the healthcare decisions, life and death decisions of our elderly populace. And so I think that it would be of great quality and character and virtue for the board to admit that really this is not what you guys are good at, and that you should give this to the people that are good at it, and give an opportunity for the elderly to have the kind of care that the professionals would provide. I think that this conversation would actually be muted if it was some other way. If I said, hey, fix my car, and you don't have the capacity, you would easily hand that off to a professional. And yet, in this discussion, we want to maintain control, the management, the decision-making processes over people's health care and their end-of-life decisions. And I don't think that that's appropriate. So I agree with my very emotional opponents that really what's happening here is that this board should not be in the management position of making decisions over the life, the healthcare decisions, and the end-of-life decisions of our elderly population. Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
My name is Mary Drake, and I'm a resident here in Freeport. I was told that if I was going to come speak before you, I should bring a lot of facts and figures. I haven't done that. I've become quite emotional about the fact that there are decisions being made that have consequences that affect our elderly friends and neighbors. And my sense is that Walnut Acres is coming dangerously close to being shut down by the state. I say that because you cannot ignore finances for the nursing home any more than you can ignore your own personal finances. If indeed we are on a trajectory whereby the state could shut the nursing home down, then you need to take action to avoid that, because it's not fair to force those residents to relocate, and it's not fair to let those employees go. Letting employees go is always a difficult decision, and relocating the residents cannot be a simple matter, even if it's just across the town. This is especially true for those residents who may be suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's. If you've had a loved one that has suffered from dementia or Alzheimer's, you know that upsetting their routine, changing their environment, new faces, it all can be very upsetting to them, and this has consequences for them. If you want to save Walnut Acres, and by that I mean keeping the employees in place, keeping the residents in place, then please take steps to sell it to a reputable long-term care company that has both the expertise and the resources to help it thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Jerry Clay from Decatur, Illinois. This statement deals with who is responsible for people's care. The Lord says in 1 Timothy 5:8, "But if any provide not for his own, especially for those of his own house, he hath denied the faith and is worse than an infidel." That scripture is discussed in this paragraph out of the Institutes of Biblical Law by R.J. Rushton, and I quote, "There is thus both a partiality and an impartiality to God's law. In a general sense, God's law functions impartially to cause the sun to shine on the good and evil alike, and the rain to fall on the just and the unjust. Moreover, with respect to the nation, the equal protection and government of the law apply to all, to the homeborn and to the stranger. The principle of one law is all, in all, is basic to biblical law. On the other hand, there is a definite partiality to the biblical law. In instances too numerous to cite, God intervenes in history to overthrow the enemies of his covenant people. The weather is used, plague is used, and a variety of means from the plagues against Egypt on. Moreover, the law as given to Israel is partial in that it protects an order, God's law order, and the people of that order. Idolatry is forbidden. Violations of the law order are punished. And at every point, God's law is the protection of God's order and the protection of God's law order. The modern concept of total toleration is not a valid legal principle, but an advocacy of anarchism. But, as we have seen, every religion is a concept of law order. Total toleration means total permissiveness of every kind of practice: idolatry, adultery, cannibalism, human sacrifice, perversion, and all things else. Such total toleration is neither possible nor desirable. For men, by prayer and by law, to move in terms of this partiality is neither evil nor selfish, but simply godly. To pray for others is certainly godly, but to be unmindful of all of our household and our own needs is not godly. It makes a man worse than an unbeliever.
Thank you, Mr.
Forever. Thank you.
Somebody else back there.
Anyone else?
If you want. Go ahead, Garrett. Well, thank you, Ed. Good evening, my name is Garrett Miller. I'm a concerned citizen of Stephenson County. Why do we want to sell the nursing home? There are those that continue to lament that to this day I don't have a straight answer as to why they, meaning us, want to sell this nursing home. Tonight I come to you with an answer. In point of fact, I come with several answers. So that those who have spent years, by their own admission at this point, shouting misinformation, slinging ad hominem attacks, and doing so without providing any solutions, might listen to us and attempt to understand our perspective. We have certainly spent enough time trying to cater to yours. First off, the nursing home is a garish neon sign to all that detest the increasingly large and incompetent bureaucracy that infringes upon our everyday lives. It is a government-subsidized non-for-profit that even with a $500,000 head start cannot compete in the public market. It is a cautionary tale to any and all that advocate for government-run universal health care in this country. Could one imagine going to a hospital run by our local government? If the way we have run our nursing home for decades indicates the care we should receive, I don't think I want that care, nor should I as a taxpayer be forced to subsidize it. Secondly, this board is in no way qualified to run this facility. If the recent accusations of sexual harassment or the not so long ago racial discrimination case doesn't prove this, then surely the constant bickering of this board and the previous board, while driving this institution into utter financial ruin, does. The very premise that a group of non-industry professionals can meet monthly to set policy in managing nursing home is preposterous. The idea that you could manage this one-star facility clinging to the bottom rung of its industry in a very competitive marketplace like this is too ludicrous a premise for even Netflix to sign off on. Thirdly, we can't afford it. The county can't afford to continue to support a nursing home with the resources at its disposal. Not just financially, which is obvious, but the most valuable resource, which is time. This board has been tasked with responsibility for oversight and management of the whole county, not just the nursing home. There are in excess of $14 million in unfunded highway repairs needed in this county today. Our region desperately needs economic development. Housing stocks are being demolished and not replaced. People are leaving. The people that work for this county deserve a living wage. These are all things that you need to put time into, but they sit on the back burner while you watch the nursing home boil. I implore you, learn from those who came before you. I missed far too many nights reading bedtime stories and giving horseback rides because I was here debating and trying to fix this issue. Allow yourself to imagine a world where this board is no longer responsible for this facility. It's still open in the hands of professionals with a good track record.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Catch me off on that, folks. Thank you.
Good evening, Ed Klein here. I had a whole bunch of stuff prepared, but I'm not going to talk. I'll probably talk about it later. The one thing I do want to mention is that TCM has not been there for a year. It's 9 months, which is 3/4, which really in business world is a big difference between 3/4 and 4/4. And we are $800,000 in the black right now this month. So those, you have to think about accrual versus cash. And then obviously, I would be glad to explain that. But first, well, all I want to do though is really point out, I disagree wholeheartedly with Mr. Larson's interpretation. What he has done is he has removed the words home properties and real estate that occur in the first half of that paragraph and somehow say that they do not apply to the second half. So when it says if the home was erected after referendum approval, he somehow says that only means the concept where it says 2/3 majority, if you're going to sell it, they talk about home properties and real estate. I have no idea how you made that opinion, except that you had to twist yourself into pretzel. This is pretzel land, so maybe you're able to do that. But it is certainly this, if this does ever, I guess what I'm going to say is that we probably will take this to court to get a court opinion on this, and it's off by a year. I mean, this would not hit the referendum until next election. And in the meantime, we have a really nice facility that has to be run efficiently. And TCM is doing that. And Garrett, I don't know what you really need to sit down with Mike and talk to him about it.
I sat on his board for 2 years.
Gentlemen, we're not going to go back
Mike
and
is
forth.
only
Finish your public comment, please.
So it's really important that you get some more information from Mike. He's very willing to talk to you, and I think there's a disconnect between the management company and what we're doing out there and what you think is happening. So, thank you.
Anyone else?
My name is Chris Zimmerman. I'm a lifelong resident of Stephenson County, and I appreciate all this board does. And I hate to see you wasting all your time going over the same thing every single month when I drive on rough roads all over the county. This thing, nobody wants to close the nursing home as far as I understand. They want to sell it to someone who runs healthcare facilities. It's a 1-star facility. It's not a 4 or 5-star. It's a 1-star facility that could be maybe a 3 or 4 or 5-star facility if it was taken over by a private organization. I don't know, that's about all I have to say. But it's just, I hate to see you guys waste your time month after month going over just beating a dead horse. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Laurie Youngblood. We need to do a little fact checking. First off, Walnut Acres is a 2-star facility. Another thing about people not preparing like statistics, we get to participate in your actions, not in your intentions. So just a friendly reminder that TCM has recovered $3 million for this county. And before TCM came on, this county was going to spend $400,000, and TCM had their fine talked down to $300,000. So there's some
statistics and facts for you guys to take home with you. All right, let's get into it. Oh, back to government health care. Veterans Affairs, it's government health care, so to those who are saying that, you're saying our veterans don't deserve health care. All right. Tonight, we're going to hear a report by County Board Member Tim Whalen showcasing available long-term care options. Whalen states often that all facilities in Stephenson County take Medicare Medicaid, as in every bed available is an option to those who have Medicare Medicaid. If this was true, all facilities, especially those referred to, Liberty Village is his most knowledgeable one, would. They haven't yet, and they won't. Beds which are allocated as Medicare Medicaid doesn't mean they will be used for Medicare Medicaid. Not all private facilities are reimbursed at the higher rate of a publicly owned facility. That's the advantage of a publicly owned nursing home. I look forward to hearing this report as to why facilities which say they accept Medicare Medicaid haven't totally. I'm curious to hear within this report the percentage of private to Medicare Medicaid occupancy and availability. So looking forward to that, y'all. Have a great night.
Hi, my name is Jody Koss. I'm a resident of Stephenson County, and taking care of our elderly is not a waste of time. Not ever. In fact, it's what government is here for, to take care of the people that live in this county. So I'm really offended when someone thinks that taking care of roads is more important than taking care of people. I disagree that this facility cannot be in the black by the end of the year. We need to stop treating TCM like, they don't know what they're doing. We need to stop harassing administrators. We need to stop sending out texts that make it look like it's a flea-infested, bug-infested place that you would never put your grandma. People are saying that. People on this board are saying that to other people in the public. That's why we're not in the black. It's your fault.
Before you start, ma'am, you've been standing in the back for quite a while. Did you want to speak?
No, it's fine. Just go ahead.
Okay.
I guess. If you want to go first.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Carrie Hass, and I'm here to speak in favor of selling Walnut Acres to a private entity. I have a grandma who currently resides at Walnut Acres. I have a mom who's worked for the past 5 years as a CNA out at Walnut Acres. So I could stand up here as an individual with personal buy-in and rattle off several stories that I've heard from the inside and give my subjective reasons as to why privatizing the nursing home is a good idea. But instead, I'd rather recite some facts and data and hope that the truth would speak for itself. As of April 1st, 2023, Walnut Acres has a 2-star CMS rating, including a below average score for health inspection, below average quality measure score. The facility has had 5 different administrators in the past 6 years. There has been an 18% census decrease from January of just this year alone, a 51% decrease from January of 2019. In 2022, the net operating income was a negative $54,000 per month. That was well over $500,000 on the year. Currently, the facility is looking at another $500,000 in immediate capital expenditures. Operating a nursing home is a business. They're in a business of caring for our elderly. I just listed 5 reasons as to how this business is failing. It's time to privatize this business, put operations in the hands of those who can run it successfully. Please, board, I'm asking you to vote to sell Walnut Acres. My grandma deserves better. Thank you.
Thank you for your patience, by the way.
My name is Alana. First, I have a letter from the AFSCME Foundation. Dear esteemed board member, as executive representative of the AFSCME Council 31 Local 2399 members employed at the Stephenson County Nursing Home, Walnut Acres, I'm writing to you regarding the letters of intent to purchase the home, which per the county board meeting agenda for April 20th, 2023, you may be discussing tonight. As you are likely aware, the Illinois statute regarding the establishment and maintenance of county homes requires that a county home erected after a referendum approval by the voters of the county shall not be sold or disposed of except after referendum approval thereof by a majority of the voters of the county voting thereon. In 1969, what was known as the Benjamin Stephenson County home no longer met the state of Illinois standards for operation and was closed. Minutes from the county board that year reflected the board's willingness to seek public approval for the construction and erection of the new county home, which is now called 100 acres. The new home, with a core administrative center and 2 separate wings, was constructed after a public referendum for the $800,000 bond required to build the facility was overwhelmingly passed. Of note, the 1970 ballot referendum was not a levy increase or debt referendum to make repairs of the existing home, but rather it was a directive from the constituents of Stephenson County to construct a new facility that met state standards. Considering that the Stephenson County home was created via voter referendum on March 17, 1970, and erected thereafter, the home shall not be sold or closed without approval of the majority of the voters of the county in a referendum vote. We urge you to follow the state statute in this situation and proceed with a ballot referendum before any further actions are taken to close or sell the county home, lest the county be at peril of violating the state statute, possibly causing any legal fees and debt associated with such violation. By Sarah Donor. I agree with this woman right here, but I do not think that it should be privatized. Privatization has a history of counting out people who look like me and people who are on public health aid. They do not get to participate in the privatization because of finances, and finances should not dictate how your life ends and the livelihood that you have, as well as privatized institutions have a history of discrimination within their corporations, not hiring people that look like me. So then we have more problems coming into Stephenson County that we already are trying to eradicate in the first place. So I don't believe that the privatization of this county home should be done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Kyle Cardwell. I'm one of those rare individuals who actually recently moved to Illinois and not making it around to Florida. This was my first county board meeting and probably my last. I confess I don't know enough about whether the county should sell the nursing home or not. I'm not here to comment on that. What I do rise to comment on is to highlight my shock at the lack of sheer access to records from approximately 50 years ago. I'm perplexed how a county could not have election records from an election that occurred during the lives of many of those people who are living in this room today. Why was it left to an outsider to go and do research in the county newspaper? The legal opinion shared tonight might actually carry the day in court should opponents of the sale seek legal remedies. I would remind the majority of the members of this board that while you might be in the majority in this room, your political views are not the majority views of this state. If you move to sell the nursing home, we all know that an injunction is going to be filed. That is a foregone conclusion. You should not be so confident in victory. Therefore, it might behoove this board to actually get additional legal opinions, free by the way, before you sell the nursing home and all but assure court challenge and legal costs to the county. Perhaps the board member who said that he was more concerned about being sued for not paying bills in a lawsuit against the sale, might I suggest that that member be willing to pay the county legal fees should the county lose.
Anyone else? Last time I looked down, somebody stood up. Okay, we will move on to the next item on the agenda. Approval of the appointment to fill the vacancy in County Board District I. I notified the Republican Party after Mr. Diddens had resigned. The Republican Party brought the name of former board member Brian Brandt forward. And that is before us tonight. Mr. Whalen.
Being the other representative from District I, I would move to approve the appointment of Brian to this board.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Mr. Hadley, is there any discussion